was in a very fortunate position, even winning the title. I wasn't even supposed to be there today. I think it's Clerks. Do you remember that movie? I wasn't even supposed to be there today. When I first won the world, the thing that led to me yesing was I had won the Money in the Bank, and the only reason I won the Money in the Bank is because they had two Money in the Bank. They had one for Raw and one for SmackDown. They knew for sure they wanted Alberto Del Rio to win the Raw one. On the SmackDown one, they thought they wanted Wade Barrett, Cody Rhodes, or me. On the day of the show, they all decided it was me because they didn't want a bad guy to win the Money in the Bank on the SmackDown side because they had a bad guy winning it on the Raw side. But the most important thing was the Alberto Del Rio thing. And so, but then they gave me the Money in the Bank, and they're like, oh no, now Daniel Bryan has the Money in the Bank. We don't necessarily, nobody at that point had cashed in and lost. And so, we did a couple of things with, and then I was off TV for like 6 weeks or whatever it is. Oh, then they inserted me in a story with Big Show and Mark Henry, which got me on TV or whatever it is, but it was great. It put me in a story. But then Mark Henry got hurt. This was at the TLC pay-per-view in 2011. Mark Henry gets hurt. I wasn't scheduled to be at the pay-per-view. I had a Walmart signing that same day in Baltimore with Kelly Kelly and came over to the building because Brie was there. And I think Brie had a match on the show. And so I was there, and then Vince found out that I was there, and then Daniel Bryan's here. And then it's like, because I had been involved in this thing with Mark Henry and Big Show. Okay, well then and Mark Henry's hurt, so they had to do like a real smoke and mirrors type chair match, and then Mark gets mad at Big Show, and then just because I happened to be there, it's like, it'll be shocking that Daniel Bryan comes in and cashes in on Big Show. So even that was just like, it was just a circumstance. If I hadn't been booked, if Walmart hadn't asked to have two WWE wrestlers sign on that particular day, that whole thing would have never happened.
Wow.
And Vince's direction to me was, go out there and celebrate like you just won the Super Bowl. And so that's how the yes thing happened. And then but a lot of these are just circumstances. If they had let me and Sheamus at WrestleMania 18 go out there and wrestle for 20 minutes and then he beats me, I don't know if it would have stayed as hot. I mean, it was more angering that they just hadn't beat me in 18 seconds with one move, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, all of these things are things beyond my control. I have nothing to do with any of these things, and they're just these weird little gifts. Right?
Yeah.
So,
take me to the day when you're told you're going to win at WrestleMania 30.
Gosh, I don't even remember. I honestly, I don't. WrestleMania 30 was a very difficult time period for me because I had my neck was really bad. I had gotten a concussion that I had to hide, not had to hide, but I mean, like, I realized I was in this trajectory of going to WrestleMania 30. I had gotten a bad concussion, but I had to hide it. I was doing live events with the concussion, and then I was wrestling one match, and after the match, I couldn't. I was in the shower, and I couldn't even stand. It's like and I was just like, oh. I was riding by myself, and I had to ask a friend to drive me to the next town, and then I got WrestleMania 30. WrestleMania 30 happened. I was not in a great headspace, to be honest. I got married on the Friday. My wife and I went on a honeymoon, and I'd never been to Hawaii before, so we went to Maui and we stayed at this eco retreat, and it was awesome. But I was staring up at I was looking up, and you had this like portal to the moon. It's so brilliant. But we had this portal to the moon, and but the room just wouldn't stop spinning. And at this point, the Chris Nowinski concussion book had come out, and I knew that I'd been lying about concussions for a while. And then we get back from our honeymoon On the Saturday, we fly to Baltimore, which is the place where I first won the World Heavyweight Championship, cashing in that Money in the Bank, and then I found out the next morning my dad died. I completely
Oh my
unexpected.
gosh.
So it's like, so people ask me about wrestling. Honestly, that whole thing was a blur. It was just a blur, right? And so, so yeah. So it's like I don't remember them telling me who told me what. I mean, it was a wild one.
How many concussions do you think you've had?
So I've had 13 documented concussions. Who knows, right?
Think the numbers double that? Triple?
Yeah. Who knows, right? I don't know. It's just weird because when I started in 1999, the idea is that like, oh, you just got dinged, right?
Your bell rung.
Yeah. You got your bell rung, and so with all the stuff that they've discovered about concussions since then, yeah. I mean, it's probably too many. I would say it's probably too many. So,
did you have an inkling in 2016 that maybe you'd had too many concussions?
Yeah. So what had happened is I had some post-concussion seizures that I never told WWE about, and then
that sounds scary.
Yes, and so then Bree, who had been there to witness a post-concussion seizure, she said, the next concussion you have, and she was worried about me, when we were on our honeymoon, the room spinning, and this is supposed to be the best week of our life or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And there was also a semi-funny incident, but she became worried that it was because of concussions rather than just my overall aloofness. We were in Maui and we had rented a car and we were doing the I forget what it's called, but it's like doesn't matter. You're going along the east side of the island. You're doing this drive, and and then we stopped at this beach. We made a million stops just to see all the different things, and we stopped at this beach, and the waves looked great. I'm like, I'm gonna go body surfing, and so I go in the car, and then Bree took this picture of me as I'm emerging from the water, just like, oh, Brian just must be the happiest man alive. And then she goes, where are the car keys? And then I was like, oh no. And we lost them to the Pacific Ocean. And then and then I had left them in my pocket. I don't think that was because of concussions. I think it's just my overall aloofness.
Sure.
As far
you were excited to jump in. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, but after that, and then I had neck surgery and I was gone for 9 months. But she said the very next concussion you have, you need to tell them about this.
How long would these seizures last?
It's impossible to tell when you're in a seizure, right? Like time doesn't exist. It's almost like when you get. Do you meditate?
I do.
Yeah. So it's like when you get really deep into meditation. Sometimes, like I've got my timer set. I was like, that was 30 minutes. It felt like nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And so, not to say that seizures are anything like meditation, but
the loss of time.
Yes, yeah. The contraction and expansion of time, and so yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I would guess if I had to guess, like the one that Bree witnessed was, if you had to ask her, it felt like forever, but was probably a minute, maybe 2 minutes.
That still sounds terrifying.
Yeah. It's a weird experience. You're just kind of like. Yeah.
So then you went to get this checked out, and they said, "Yeah, it was a brain lesion, right?"
No. So what had happened is I told the doctor. I went to a neurologist in Phoenix, Arizona, and thinking in my head, and this is how naive I am. So thinking, okay, I can tell the doctor, and he won't put it in the report that WWE gets, right? And I said, and then hoping that he and I could work it out together. And then WWE's like, you what? And it's like, so anyways, all of that to say, then it was like, it wasn't just the seizures. It was the fact that I had been lying to them for years. Like, that's a trust thing, right? And this is, that neurologist had actually cleared me to wrestle. He said, you need to, they looked at, okay, does Brian need anti-seizure medication? In which case, I mean, that would have been a very different situation. It was determined I didn't need anti-seizure medication. I hadn't had post-concussion seizure since 2012, and so yeah, and then but then they were like, yeah, it's probably smart, and they have to, WWE has to worry about liability and all of these different things, and then the head of medical for WWE, Dr. Joseph Maroon, who I became very close with. He's great. He he has to worry about his own personal liability and all that kind of stuff. And I understood why I was forced to retire. And the idea was I was trying to get out of this. I knew that they were kind of leaning this way, right? and it was a full year, almost a full year after that concussion, where I actually announced my retirement. But that year, I was trying to prove that I'm okay. And then when I was doing all these experimental things, right? They hooked up all these EEGs to my head or whatever it is, and in this thing, they said they saw a brain lesion, right? And then it was like, oh boy, and then, but I had told them that from this point forward, I will be completely honest with you with all of my medical stuff. And so I told them the results of that. But now you get into the idea of what's a lesion, right? What do you think a lesion is?
A cut.
No, yeah, that's what it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
I've got a cut on my brain.
Yeah.
But no, it turns out that's not, it was just an abnormality. Here we see an abnormality in what we would normally see.
Call it a lesion.
Yeah, they call it a lesion. And it's not like it's a little bit more than an abnormality, but it's certainly not a cut, right? In the sense that you and I would think of like, oh no, my brain's bleeding or whatever it is. But then so that was the story behind that. That was devastating for me. There's a huge difference between being forced to retire, like I was. I commemorate being forced to retire in 2015 after that concussion. I didn't actually announce my retirement until 2016, but there's a huge difference between being forced to retire and then choosing, like, you know what? I think I'm ready.
Christopher Daniels was telling me every wrestler has their last match, but not every wrestler knows when their last match is.
Yeah.
Right, that's a big difference.
Yeah. It's a huge difference. And obviously I didn't want my kids to be at my last match, kind of knowing what was going to happen. But a couple months before my last match, they got to be there at Wembley at All In. That was by far my favorite moment of my career, just because of my kids at an age where they'll remember it, or at least my daughter will. We don't know about my son, but my daughter still talks about it, right? And so my son still talks about it, but his memory is going to be a little foggy. So
that whole match, like curtain to curtain, is just beautiful. Like, what an amazing entrance. And the crowd there singing along to the final countdown. Then an incredible match, culminated by you winning the AEW championship. Then the music hits again, and your family comes in the ring. It was perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I envision, from a fan's perspective, that's what WrestleMania 30 feels like too, right? My perspective from that was very, very different, right?
That's interesting.
And so it's like, it's very, the idea of being able to, for just one moment in time, being cool to your kids is like, it goes a long way, right?
I'm with you. I'm in a similar boat. I'm a few years behind you. I've got an older daughter and a younger son.
Yeah.
2.5 and 10 months right now.
Oh my gosh, you're in it.
Oh, we are in it.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine a few years from now my kids actually understanding what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Especially in front of 50,000 people,
right,
whatever that was.
Yeah. So it's super cool. But I mean, it's like, but it's also really interesting and sobering. Like, I love wrestling, right? The wrestling and reading are really the only two forms of entertainment I partake in, right? Like, I don't watch
You don't watch movies?
movies. I
TV
don't
shows?
watch TV shows. I don't go on social media. And I think of all of these things as like entertainment. I've even recently stopped listening to music.
Completely.
Mostly completely. I mean, I can't eliminate it completely. Like, you drive the kids to school, they want to play K-pop Demon Hunters album or whatever, and it's just like, oh my gosh, those songs will get stuck in your head, and it's crazy. But what I find is that there's too many inputs in this world, right? In the sense of, like, okay, too many things going into your brain, and for me, I want time to kind of observe, and I want time to think for myself, and I don't want any of these things to change the way I think, right? So yeah, but all of that to say, at the end of the day, wrestling is entertainment, right? And so it's like this in a world filled with entertainment.
Yeah.
And so, how much importance do you place on entertainment in your life? And as a society, we place a huge importance on entertainment and distraction, right? And so it's like, so I'm trying to I care deeply about wrestling just because you have this connection to something, but I never want to push it as being something that's okay. You have to. Oh, people will say this to me. Oh, you have to watch the show. Like, why? It's great. Lots of things are great.
Yeah. I love doing the 5 whys, right? So you got to watch the show. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's great. Why?
Yeah.
Well, because this, and this. Well, why does that make it great? And I think it's interesting because it boils down to, like, what are you really talking about?
Right. Yeah. Did it change your perception of the world? Right. So that's if one of the things I like wrestling for wrestling's sake. Right. Like, I am obsessed with the in-ring aspect of wrestling. I am really fascinated by the story aspect of wrestling, the continuity aspect of wrestling, and then, like, okay, how is wrestling changing in response to society? I would love to see, some more characters that reflect the age that we're in now, right? And how do you do that? I mean, I have some ideas, but I mean, but all of that said, it's like, it's because this medium, this very specific medium, is something that I'm very interested in, and I think I'm of the opinion that live wrestling, if you go to a live wrestling match, anybody who isn't even a wrestling fan can go to a live wrestling match and have a great time.
Yeah.
Right? And especially when there's great wrestling, right? And, like, other people are super into it and all that kind of stuff. But to devote, you would know this as now a father of 2 and being really deep in it right now.
Yeah.
But in me, even though my kids are a little bit older and I'm not as deep in it as that, it's like, okay, who's going to devote 4 hours a week to watch professional wrestling? Who is going to, if you consume WWE programming as well, then now you're looking at 9 hours of TV. If you watch Ring of Honor, now you're 10 hours. If you want to enjoy New Japan, if you want to enjoy CMLL, and, like, all this kind of stuff, that's a career.
It's literally every day.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, and I don't consume wrestling, right? I mostly watch AEW. I sometimes look at wrestling from the past, and then when I hear about great things in CMLL and New Japan, because they're
Hello, Moto.